Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Run. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. I'm here with State Representative Jon Rosenthal once more. Jon is protecting our democracy, our voter rights in Washington, D.C. He's one of the Texas state representatives who took off to D.C. to make sure that they didn't have a quorum to take away our rights here in Texas. Representative Rosenthal, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing well. We're staying busy. We're working hard here, and we're in it because we really believe in the cause. We want to protect the freedom to vote, and not let our colleagues make it even more difficult than it already is to cast a ballot in the state.
Now, I know that you guys have been in a lot of meetings. I know that a few of 6 of the members sort of had breakouts with COVID. Are they doing fine right now?
Yes. So it's been such a big piece of news, and really over here, it's not been anything. So we had one member test positive because he was test positive prior to a surgical procedure. He didn't even know. He wasn't feeling bad. We're all vaccinated. So once we found out about that, we had everybody tested. And that's when we found a few more positives. But really, as far as I know, of the 6, only 2 showed even minor symptoms.
Right.
So nobody's been really ill. We've had no new positives for 3 days. We're testing every day. And yesterday or the day before, we did the PCR test for everybody.
The real deep test,
rapid.
yeah.
Yeah. The real, the molecular test that's much more accurate. And we have still no new, no infection. So the takeaway from this, y'all, is we are seeing dramatic increases in hospitalizations and deaths in Texas and across the country associated with this new variant of the disease. And among all of us here vaccinated, most didn't have any trouble at all. The ones that even tested positive would never have known if we didn't test them. So they were completely asymptomatic. The takeaway is the vaccines work. Please, please, please get vaccinated so that we can rid ourselves of this problem once and for all.
Thank you so kindly for that advice, Representative. Let me let's get to the core of this thing right now. First of all, just for a brush up to those people who still or maybe a bit uninformed, why are you in DC right now? Why did you leave Texas?
We left Texas to block a very egregious piece of legislation. So it really is an attack on our freedom to vote. And anyone who tells you, oh, it's just a voter ID bill or it's this or it's that, this is 47 pages of all kinds of stuff in there. And it chips away at the availability. It chips away at the accessibility. It limits voting hours. And some of the worst parts are it gives license. It literally gives license to partisans to come into the polls as poll watchers and harass and intimidate voters. Like, they get a free pass on the first offense. The election judges can't even ask them to leave until after they warn them, and only when they witness the activity themselves. It literally says these people can violate the penal code. They can do criminal activity inside of the voting booth, close enough to see and hear your voting activity. They can look over your shoulder and watch you vote and harass, intimidate you. Can't even be asked to leave until being warned, and only then if the election judge witnesses the activity themselves. Y'all, this is an attack on our democracy. The vote is sacred. The freedom to vote is the cornerstone of our democracy. If you want your voices heard, that's your vote is your voice. Your voice is your humanity. And anyone trying to take that away from you, I will fight that. That's why I'm here.
And, we thank you for doing that, because I think that's important. Representative Rosenthal, the word is out there that somehow the taxpayer are picking up the tab for what you guys are doing out there in DC. How much money are you taking away from the Texas taxpayer, my representative?
So that number is zero. The only taxpayer money that's gone to this are the people who have given contributions toward the specific effort. So as far as government money, nothing. No government money has gone to support this at all. Most of us are even returning the daily expenses thing that you get during session. I'm returning my per diem. So zero government money, my brother. It's all private donations.
I want the audience to realize this, folks, because this is very important. These people are not only not taking taxpayer dollars, but this is also costing them as well. Many of them have their own businesses. Many of them have their own careers. The state only pays $600 or so per month. So
That's
no,
right.
this is at a personal hurt that our representatives are doing this. So again, like I have always asked, remember to support our representatives from the grassroots, because the fact is, if they are supporting us in what they're doing, we need to do the same as well. A lot of people think that a lot of this voting is only going to affect one class of people or one group of people or one ethnicity, not realizing that this stuff is really a partisan thing. They look at the way things are set out, and the areas that they feel vote Democratic is where these particular things are targeted. Big cities, which are generally Democratic, they will see loss of drop boxes, etc. And in fact, I think they get the same amount of boxes as other folks as far as etc. So I mean, I think we need to explain to people that this is not a racial issue only. This is a party issue that says, if you are voting for another party, we don't want you to vote.
Absolutely right. So there's a couple of layers to this. The innovations that we had in Harris County in the 2020 election that really made voting more accessible and more convenient, even with an active raging pandemic going on. This bill, you look at it and they go one by one on those things. They ban each of them. I don't know how it makes voting more secure to cut it off, and not allow 24-hour voting. I don't know why they would pretend that eliminating drive-through voting makes it more secure. 60% of the 120,000 people that cast drive-through ballots were women, and they were in Harris County. They directly went after us in Harris County. And then here's the other one. There's another bill besides this big, huge omnibus egregious piece. I believe it's House Bill, is it 241 that Representative Steve Toth brought, Steve Toth from the Woodlands. When asked about this thing, and they said, why are you only picking the 13 largest counties to do a forensic audit? Why are you only going to audit the 13 largest counties? Well, how about the 14th or the 15th? How about some smaller counties? And he literally said, well, we don't really have the time and the money to do all the counties, and really the smaller counties vote red anyway. So what's the point? They are literally going after Democratic voters.
Wow, he actually slipped and said that.
It's all, if you check Twitter right now, all the Democrats are retweeting that because he literally said that out loud.
It is amazing that that's one thing the new Republican Party has learned, right? That they can actually think aloud. At first, all these things they would try to do it in secret or do it without, try to name something else. Now, you all have met with the vice president. You've also met with I think Representative Clyburn over Zoom. Are you going to meet any? By the way, have you guys been meeting in persons, or all Texans have been meeting through Zoom?
Well, until we had, the little COVID issue pop up, all the meetings were in person. Mm-hmm. And so we met in person with a bunch of senators. We met with Kirsten Gillibrand, Raphael Warnock, Amy Klobuchar, Senator Merkley from Oregon, I believe.
And I think you also met with with Manchin,
Joe
right?
Manchin.
Yeah.
So Texas Democrats have now met with Joe Manchin twice. And actually more productive meetings than you might think. They didn't go after him at all. They looked for common ground. He does believe in protecting voting rights. And he was a Secretary of State. So when our folks explained to him exactly what's going on, what our laws look like, we talk about Crystal Mason, who's the woman from the Dallas area who was on probation after a trial for a federal crime, and she received only probation in the federal court system. And the probation officer, they give you a package and they say, no hanging out with felons, no guns, and they list out all the things you can and can't do. They did not tell her she was ineligible to vote.
Right.
And so she was still registered. She cast a ballot. She was brought into her probation officers, into the probation officer's, office, and they took her away in handcuffs.
Right.
And the reason was for casting an illegal ballot. She didn't.
5 years, right?
So they sentenced her to 5 years for casting a provisional ballot that wasn't even counted.
Right.
Our system for provisional balloting, where they go and they check it to see if it's, to be counted or not, worked. The ballot was not counted. And they sentenced her to 5 years. She's now out on appeal. It wasn't 5 years. I think it was 26 months.
Okay.
In prison for attempting to, when this was just an election worker who said, oh, your name's not on the roll, but here's a provisional. If you fill this form out, you could have an opportunity to try to cast a ballot. So when we talk about stuff like that, other states let people vote when they're on probation or when they get out, if they're on parole. Our state, you have to complete all of that stuff. And that's, I'm not even arguing the ins and outs of it. I'm saying if you are on parole or probation, the people that set you up with your conditions should inform you of that.
Right. Well, I mean, it is sad that
So anyway, we explained that to.
Yeah, go ahead. I think you're.
We explained that to the senator.
Now, Joe Manchin. Let me ask you about the senator that you spoke to. The senator that you spoke to. Did you feel like they will ultimately make that carve out?
That was not part of the conversation. Of course, I was not in the room for the Manchin meeting. I met with Jilla Brand and a couple of others. I met with Raphael Warnock and Amy Klobuchar, Merkley, and Elizabeth Warren.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who did meet with Joe Manchin felt very positive that they were looking for paths to ensure that the freedom to vote is protected in the country.
Now,
and so we don't know if that's going to look like a. Yes.
Let me tell you, from those of us on the outside, all right. When we know, I like your T-shirt, by the way. I love your T-shirt. Yes, I love that T-shirt. Anyway, we
backed it up here.
There you go.
This is the Texas Fugitive T-shirt.
I like the Texas Fugitive. Anyway, here's the issue. We know that there's not going to be not one Republican senator who is going to support either the John Lewis bill or the We the People bill. Neither one of them is going to get the support. We know that. Why the only option to get some sort of a bill is if there's a carve out that's made for that. There are just two ways, right? We get 10 Republicans or we get a carve out, and the 10 Republicans are unlikely. Again, do our Texans feel like one of those things are going to occur?
There's actually a third possibility where they put some of these protections in a reconciliation bill.
Oh,
so there's conversation about that.
I got you. So now voting, but reconciliation has to do with budget. How do they turn that into a budget bill?
All I can tell you is they're having conversation about the possibility of doing that. And I know that the Senate parliamentarian is supposed to be making a ruling on certain provisions that could be.
That's news. That is news
this week. As far as the process in the Senate, while I agree with you, I don't think we're going to see no 10 senators vote for any voting rights no 10 Republican senators voting for them. I think actually you might have a couple. I think actually Collins and Murkowski and actually Toomey have agreed to meet with us virtually. And I think
Really?
that, and
What about Romney?
I don't remember the specific that's working. I'm not the one setting up the meeting, so I don't know. I just heard that that Democrats were going to meet with them or their offices or something like that. I knew that Murkowski and Toomey were interested in talking to us. Is what I've heard. So we are attempting to reach across the aisle also, and I would consider senators like that more moderate. There's no way there's not 10 moderate Republican senators in that, right? There's just but you might get a couple. And if you had a carve out or you had a way to do a reconciliation piece, those are possible avenues. So
that's the only way. Yeah. All right.
I agree with you, brother.
Now, Representative, we always end it the same way. You are out there in DC right now. What do you need us Texans and the rest of the country to know? How would you like to close us out? Tell us what we need to do to help you do what you do.
So first, thank you so much, even just for having me on and having the conversation. People need to be educated about what's in this bill, be able to counter the disinformation that's out there. I think folks advancing overly simplified narratives that are false is a real problem. So if you can help us with that, send your love, send your prayers, and fundraising is actually part of being elected, and we're not doing any of that, not at the level that we would be if we were back home. So if there's anyone out there who can help to sustain us while we're doing this, that's also very much appreciated. And, and either through JonRosenthalTX.com or TexasHDC.org or whatever it is.
I will on your when this is processed, we will definitely have your website on there, because we do need to support our representatives that are out there fighting the battle. I mean, you can't ask them to be grassroots and then not expect that we have to. I mean, we go to McDonald's, we go to all these places, we pay for cable TV, we do all these things. Please, folks, when you find yourself with representatives out there that are really representing the people, please do support them. We're going to put it on the screen, but I'd like you to ask people, how can they support Jon Rosenthal?
Well, you can go to JonRosenthalTX.com, JonRosenthalTX.com. That's the website. That would be the place to make a financial contribution, but also anything that you can do as far as your activism, bringing people along. We're going to have a massive voter registration effort in this state. We are going to combat whatever comes our way and through organizing. So all that, and for folks that know me and know that I started as an indivisible leader, it is the grassroots effort that got me elected and defeated a long-term incumbent, and it's going to be the grassroots effort that helps us make ground in the state.
Absolutely. So Representative Jon Rosenthal, thank you so kindly for being on Politics Done Right.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.